One morning, the Fat Controller and his grandchildren came to see Toby. "Come on, Toby, we're all going to Seaside. We will ride in Henrietta." "Yes, sir," said Toby happily. They came to a small seaside station. Soon, the children were playing in the sand, building a splendid castle. The Fat Controller inspected it. "My word, that's a very fine castle. Have you seen a real one like it?" "Yes," replied the children. "It's here on the island." And they showed him a map. Pondered the Fat Controller. They met Toby at the harbour. "Come on, we're going exploring. It will be a great adventure." Soon they were in the wildest part of the island. They stopped by a lonely signal box. "Where might you be going, then?" asked the signalman. "We're trying to find an old castle," replied the Fat Controller. "I know the place, sir," said the signalman. "There's a small junction not too far down the line. Just switch the points." When the firemen switched the points, their adventure really began. Toby pushed past branches and bushes till they came to another little junction. There they saw two old signs. One read, "To the castle," and the other, "To the mine." "We'll go to castle first." Toby stopped by an old water tower. "There's the castle." "Yes," replied the Fat Controller, "and now we shall visit the mine." Once upon a time, the mine had been worked by the little engines and their lines were still in place. But now everything was very rusty and overgrown. The Fat Controller was most impressed, but Toby was rather scared. He was glad when it was time to go home. "I think the castle and the mine will make a very fine place for visitors, but it will take a lot of hard work first." "Yes, sir," said Toby nervously. The Fat Controller's plans were soon put into action, but Toby was still worried. "I'm sure this place is haunted," he said to himself. "It's our turn to stay here on guard tonight, Toby." "Oh, yes, why not?" stuttered Toby. "Beware of the ghost, Toby," Thomas said. "What ghost?" asked Toby. "The old warrior ghost. Every night he lights his fire, then goes hunting." "Toot toot, goodbye," Thomas replied. Night came. Toby looked anxiously around. Everything seemed rather spooky. Quite suddenly, he heard a strange wheezing sound. "It's the ghost!" he wailed. "What ghost?" his driver asked. "It's the old warrior. He's come to hunt me down." "Don't be so daft. We'll go and investigate." They returned quite soon. "The old warrior wants to meet you," laughed his fireman. "Can't he wait till morning?" replied Toby. "Ghosts don't work day shifts," said his driver. Toby bravely made his way. "Well, bless my bell," he exclaimed. There in front of him was a little old engine. "This is your ghost, Toby," said the signalman. "His name's really Bertram, but we call him the Old Warrior because he's so brave." Bertram and Toby are now firm friends. They take the visitors to the splendid castle and the mine. If there are any ghosts here, they certainly help to make the place very happy. Winter on the island of Sodor can be windy and cold. When the cold wind blows, the engines can't wait to get back to the snug warmth of Tidmouth sheds. "Bitter cold, bitter cold, bitter cold," chuffed Toby. I'll soon be back in my nice dry shed. But suddenly, he could see a farmer standing knee-deep in snow. He was waving a red flag. Toby's driver applied the brakes. My phone lines are down, all the roads are blocked, and my sheep have just started lambing, the farmer said. They're trapped on the hillsides, cut off by the snow. What can we do to help? Toby chuffed. I need a vet as quickly as possible. We'll stop at the next signal box, said Toby's driver. I'll phone the vet from there. Toby raced to the signal box, and the driver phoned ahead to the station. The Fat Controller and the vet were waiting for Toby as he arrived. The farmer's lambs are stranded on the hillside, cried Toby. We've got to rescue them. I'm sure we shall, said the Fat Controller. I'll send Duck right away. This is a job for an engine with a snowplough. Toby knew Duck was the right engine for the job. He was very powerful. Hurry, Toby called anxiously as Duck chuffed out of the station. But so much snow had fallen, the tracks ahead were blocked. We can't go on, said Duck's driver grimly. We'll have to go back. Toby was surprised to see Duck return to the station. I tried my hardest, puffed Duck, but the weather's getting worse. Even Duck's snowplough can't get through, said his driver. Then Toby had an idea. My old branch line runs out there, sir. Remember? That's far too dangerous, said the Fat Controller. It would never carry Duck's weight. It might take my weight, said Toby, and I know that line like the back of my buffers, he added. It's our only chance to help the newborn lambs. The Fat Controller agreed, but he told Toby to be very careful. Soon a blizzard was howling. Toby's driver was worried. I can do it, called Toby, as long as these rails hold. But Toby had forgotten about the rickety old bridge. Help! My wheels are wobbling, he cried. His driver fought for control as Toby struggled on. I've got to reach the other side of this bridge, gasped Toby. Those lambs need me. The farmer was waiting. It was very cold. Suddenly, a ghostly glowing eye shone through the snowstorm. It was Toby's headlamp. You made it, cried the farmer. What a brave engine you are. The vet and the farmer went to find the lambs. But they soon returned. The newborn lambs are safe and sound, Toby, said the vet, but we need a place now to keep the little ones warm. Toby smiled. I think you'll find Henrietta has plenty of room. Toby stayed for several days just to make sure the lambs were all right. The farmer was very grateful. Thank you, Toby, he said. We couldn't have done it without you. No, thank you, said Toby. There's nothing I like better than helping out a friend in need. Rusty repairs the railway that winds through the mountains on the island of Sodor. The little diesel checks that the tracks, tunnels and bridges are all in good working order. One day, Rusty was crossing the old wooden bridge. There was a big bump in the track. Rusty's driver stopped to check the bridge. There are cracks in the supports, he said. That could be dangerous, cried Rusty. It might fall down if it's not repaired. And they hurried off to warn the other engines. The engines were waiting for their coal when Rusty arrived. "Don't use the old wooden bridge," said Rusty. "It's dangerous." "How would you know?" wheezed Duncan. "You're only a diesel." And he puffed crossly away. He didn't even wait for his coal. Rusty hurried down the mountain to tell the Fat Controller the bad news. "Thank you," said the Fat Controller. "I'll send engineers to investigate the bridge. Meanwhile, nobody is to use it." Rusty's driver put up a sign, "Line closed." The engines had to travel a different way. Meanwhile, Duncan needed more coal to get home. But when he arrived at the coal bunker, it was empty. "Bother! I won't get home without more coal. Where's the nearest bunker?" "On the other side of the old wooden bridge, but you can't cross. Rusty says it's not safe." Rusty always makes things sound worse than they are. "I'm sure one trip across the old wooden bridge won't hurt," added his driver. When they got to the junction, Duncan's driver removed the sign. And they set off towards the bridge. This was a big mistake. Suddenly, Duncan hissed to a halt. "I'm out of steam." He had used up all his coal. "What's that?" he asked nervously. His driver looked out. The old wooden bridge was starting to collapse. "Rusty," called Skarloey. "Duncan has gone across the bridge." "I'd better check he's all right," the little diesel said. But the cracks in the supports were getting larger. A beam snapped. Timber pieces splashed into the water below. "Help!" whistled Duncan. "I'm going to fall." But Rusty was on the way. Soon the little diesel reached the old wooden bridge. Duncan had never looked so scared. Rusty chuffed bravely onto the bridge. "Careful!" gasped Duncan. Soon they were coupled up. "Hold on," said Rusty. "Oh!" shouted Duncan. The little diesel pulled him off the bridge just in time. The Fat Controller was cross. "That was very irresponsible." "Yes, sir. Sorry, sir. And Rusty, you were very brave." "Yes, Rusty. You really are a useful engine." "Thank you, sir." Rusty felt very reliable. Fergus, a small railway traction engine, works on the island of Sodor. One day he was on his way to the quarry. He had a special job to do for the Fat Controller. "Hello," whistled Thomas. "Where are you going?" "To the quarry," Fergus chuffed happily. "Watch out for the twins," said Thomas. "They love to make mischief." "I won't let young rascals rattle me." "You don't know the twins like I do," warned Thomas. Fergus arrived at the quarry. He went to work with Mavis and the twins. "I'm afraid the trucks are in a mess," said Mavis. "Not to worry. We'll sort them out." Bill and Ben were delighted. "Now we'll have some fun," whistled Ben. "We'll have the old boiler in a spin," steamed Bill. Fergus liked helping Mavis, but he didn't like the way the twins were behaving one bit. Bill banged his trucks hard. Some rocks fell onto the track. Do it right, Fergus ordered. Bill didn't like being ordered about by a traction engine. Don't interfere, he snapped back. Then Ben pushed his trucks to block the line. Fergus was stuck. Out of my way, steamed Fergus, but Ben just grinned. The next day, the men were blasting rock. Wait for the all clear signal, Fergus called to Bill and Ben. Do it right. There he goes again, puffed Bill. Do it right from morning till night. Keep your funnel out of our quarry, huffed Ben. The quarry master sent Bill and Ben to collect a rock crusher from the harbour. Fergus was left in peace with Mavis. The twins were still thinking about Fergus. He's just an old fusspot, said Bill. He's always saying, do it right. Well, the next thing he tells us to do, wheezed Bill. We'll do it wrong, they laughed. Ah! Bill and Ben steamed back to the quarry. The rock crusher was heavy, shaking the rails as they went. The blasting has made that rock face unsafe, warned Fergus. Don't go near it. Do it right. But the twins took no notice of Fergus and were very naughty. As roughly as they could, they rattled the load towards the cliff. Look out! Cried Fergus, and he rushed forward and bumped Bill and Ben out of the way. His driver jumped to safety as the rocks began to fall, but Fergus was covered in rocks right up to his funnel. It took a long time to dig him out, and no one worked harder to help than Bill and Ben. At last, Fergus was free. Bill and Ben were ashamed. We shouldn't have been so naughty, said Bill. We're very sorry, added Ben. Good, smiled Fergus. From now on, we can all do it right together. Thomas and Fergus, the traction engine, are friends. Fergus is the pride of the cement works. He knows all the rules and obeys them. One day, the Fat Controller brought devious Diesel to the cement works. I need Diesel to help for a while. Please show him around. Yes, said Fergus unhappily. He knew that Diesel could be trouble. Later, Diesel was being careless. Not like that, snapped Fergus. Do it right. Don't interfere, sneered Diesel. You don't know the rules, retorted Fergus. Diesel was very annoyed with Fergus and started plotting a devious plan. Later that day, he pretended to have news for Fergus. The Fat Controller wants you to work at the smelters. Me? But I'm the pride of the cement works. Not anymore. The Fat Controller says I'm better than you, so I'm going to stay here.
It's not fair. I love working here.
But he knew that really useful engines have to do as they are told. Fergus and his driver arrived at the smelters.
I want to go back to the cement works,
Wailed Fergus.
None of the other engines like coming here. It's so scary.
You're right, said his driver. Just then, the scrap diesels arrived. Hello, are you happy to be here?
No,
Cried Fergus. His driver was scared too. Come on, Fergus, we're going to escape. And for the first time, Fergus broke the rules. The Fat Controller was enjoying a tasty supper of kippers when he heard that Fergus was missing. That's not like Fergus. There must be something wrong. I will send Thomas to look for him. Fergus and his driver turned onto a disused track to find a place to hide. Fergus was frightened. So was Thomas. He puffed up and down the line. He couldn't see Fergus anywhere. We could search the old mine track, said his driver. That line is dark and spooky, whispered Thomas, but he had to be brave and find Fergus. Fergus was on a siding. His fire had gone out. Then it happened. It's an engine, he cried. Fergus, whistled Thomas, whatever are you doing out here?
hiding. Don't want to work at the smelters. The Fat Controller is going to be cross with me.
He's not, cried Thomas. He's worried about you.
Really?
Of course, puffed Thomas. Fergus felt better. Thomas pulled Fergus all the way to the smelter's yard, where he knew the Fat Controller was waiting. Fergus, explain yourself.
I ran away. It's scary here.
Diesel told Fergus that you wanted him at the smelters forever, said Thomas. Nonsense, Fergus. You are the pride of the cement works. I shall send Diesel to the smelters, and you can go back to the cement works tomorrow.
Oh, thank you, sir,
said Fergus happily. Fergus knew he had a good friend in Thomas, and he was still the pride of the cement works. The engines on the island of Sodor were excited. A new park was being built. Everyone was working hard to get the job finished on time. Duncan was feeling impatient. Get a move on, slow coach, he puffed crossly to Rusty. You're so slow, I'll finish first, Duncan boasted to Skarloey. Skarloey was cross. A little later, he met Rusty at the new park station. Duncan thinks he's fast, Skarloey steamed, but he's just a bossy boiler. Better safe than fast, Rusty agreed. Duncan drew into the station. He was all puffed up and pleased with himself. I finished first, he wheezed proudly. In that case, said the Fat Controller, I've got another job for you. You're to collect the elephant on the sidings and take it to the park. Yes, sir, chuffed Duncan. This elephant is very important. You must be very careful. When Duncan saw the elephant, he was surprised. Why, it's only a statue, he said. This is an easy job. You must wait for the brake van, said the station master. This statue is very heavy. Nonsense, huffed Duncan to his driver. I've pushed heavier loads than this plenty of times. Let's go, Duncan, said his driver, but we must be careful. So they left. But without the brake van. But Duncan wasn't careful. He was impatient. We'll show them how fast I am, Duncan whistled. We'll deliver this statue and I'll still finish first. Duncan started to speed up. Soon, Duncan was going as fast as his wheels could carry him. His driver was starting to worry. So he tried to brake, but Duncan was out of control. He was scared. He had never gone this fast. People waved and cars tooted as Duncan sped by. Suddenly, a tractor trundled across Duncan's line. "Look out!" shouted his driver. "Slow down!" whistled Rusty. "I can't!" Duncan cried as he shot past. Elephant Park loomed ahead. Duncan's driver applied the brakes, but it was too late. The statue flew through the air and landed in the lake. Luckily, nobody was hurt. In no time, the Fat Controller arrived. He was cross. "I told you to be careful. You should have waited for the brake van," he said sternly. "I'm sorry, sir," mumbled Duncan. He felt very embarrassed. Duncan was repaired in time for the opening of Elephant Park. He was very surprised to see the statue still standing in the lake. "Everyone loves the elephant in the lake," said Lady Hat. "Even if it was a mistake," added the Fat Controller. "Hooray for Duncan's mistake!" cheered the engines. Duncan blushed and went a deep shade of red. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the island of Sodor. Morning, Thomas. How wonderful! Marvelous. Hooray! Hello. Oh, thank you. He's fallen in the water. Well done. What a brave